Tiffany, maybe talk about that transition for you and for future journalists and how they can bridge skill gaps, maybe. You know, the digital page for the station's website is different than the story that they're telling on a live hit, right? So maybe you can
Yeah,
add some color to that.
yeah, and it's also different from the streaming world and building a live stream network. I mean, the speakers you've already heard today have touched on this, but it's our entire industry that's really grappling with a massive audience rejection of traditional time-bound television newscasts. And, that's a real issue for us as journalists and for our businesses. And so a lot of companies, mine included, as well as CBS O&Os, which I worked for before moving to Houston last year, are really figuring out how to get into the streaming game. And so one of the experiences that I have had in my career is transitioning, going from being, a news director and an executive producer of traditional television newscasts and moving into how do we present content in a live stream world that's 24/7 and boundless and timeless, and can really speak to what is it that our users are seeking out in a streaming space. And I really look at this question specifically from that perspective. It does not matter what I want, what Jim wants, what Suzanne wants, what Stephanie, Martha wants. It matters what our users are demanding of us as when they're looking for local news content. And ever since the pandemic, you live it in your own lives. Everyone's streaming. And so local news has got to figure out how to provide our content that's so important to our local communities in that space. But the audience is telling us that they don't want it the same way that we've done it for 60, 70 years on TV newscasts. They want long form in-depth storytelling. They want documentary style approaches to important topics. They want a lot of live. Take me to the scene live. Show me something behind the scenes that I can't get anywhere else that's happening in my community. Not just breaking news, but really anything. And so in building our live stream network here in Houston, based on a lot of trial and error that I had in my previous world, some of the skills that we're finding to be valuable and to really resonate and give us the ability to grow our streaming audience is everybody's talked about the writing in the streaming world. We are really looking for a lot more, and I'm going to use this word, which some people think is a bad word in our business, but I'm looking for less formal writing. No one in our streaming audience is looking for, the newsman anchor sound of 1984. They really want to know that you're an authentic person with intelligence, that you know your subject matter well enough that you can talk about it without being scripted. We do a lot of what we do in our streaming network actually on bullet points. So the idea that you can really research a subject and be able to talk intelligently about it off the cuff is increasingly more important in this live stream world. When you do have to write, it needs to be a lot less formal. You need to sound like the audience in a conversational, real human kind of way. And we're finding not only we're finding like active rejection of traditional things like traditional news sets, traditionally written news scripts, traditional TV graphics. We're finding an actual rejection of that in the streaming world. They're looking for news, but they're not looking for that. And so that's been a real informative thing for us in terms of what are those skills we need to build. The other one that I think this group should hear is really that the audience has a redefined expectation of the word talent. The person on camera can be anyone in your newsroom. I think it was Jessica who said it. Everyone in your newsroom is a journalist, and the audience, and especially in a streaming world, but I would argue the same is becoming more and more true of television. The audience in a streaming world is looking for that talent that they can relate to, that looks like them, that can, again, intelligently communicate about a news story or an important piece of something happening in the community, not on a set, not with the buttoned up bow tie. One of my favorite examples of this actually is from my own company, which is Graham Media. We own the KSAT in San Antonio, and their 5 o'clock newscast producer has a genuine organic interest in politics. And so she started doing Instagram reels around boring political stories coming out of the Texas state capitol that would otherwise have been, formally written VOs with wallpaper video in her newscast. She started producing and putting herself in front of these topics as YouTube reels or Instagram reels and doing these video shorts. and they're tremendously informative. She's very well spoken. She clearly knows her topic. She does very simple editing with graphics over video. And she started doing that for YouTube, and it's such good content. They're now utilizing that within the framework of the 5 o'clock newscast, and audiences are loving it. So this idea that your talent is your traditional anchor is quickly becoming outdated.